Now there are so many drops to choose from, and it's really tempting just to be like, oh, there's lots of chests here. Oh, Peobot's landing here. Oh, there's good metal. This is the perfect drop. This is perfect for me. But what's stopping other people from having the same logic? What's special about this drop spot that makes it better for you, and is it going to allow you to win more games and more points in tournaments from this spot? You're not really special. You're not really designed for this spot. You might have a special skill set that allows you to play for a drop like this, where someone else might not. That means you can win more off spawns, and you can actually make the most of the games that you get from that spot. So what are the main points that I think you should look for when you're trying to whittle down out of these drop spots to find the perfect one for you? So the first thing you should consider is, in my opinion, your awareness. So this is pretty much how much do you scout, how much do you actually take the time to get information on the teams around you, and also how much do you actually use that information and process things. So for example, if I was just to hide this for a second, let's say we're landing at Sandy Strip and it's in opens and the team lands on its right side and you take the left side. How many times do you actually take time to work out what they're doing, which way they're rotating? Are they going north? Are they going south? Are they farming mats? Do they look like they're trying to fight? How much time do you actually take to think about this stuff? Now, I do think this is quite an IGL heavy role, but even as a fragger, it's still your responsibility to be another pair of eyes and ears for the IGL to use. So that's the main essence of awareness. In terms of measuring your awareness or your team's awareness, I actually think it's fine to just self-assess it. Like, how much is this you?
Always miss the small details.
Try Messi. Or you just
Scans to see where his teammates are.
I get the idea. But I think you can really just think about your own gameplay and just think, how much time do you spend looking for information, scouting and finding new angles and using hills to your advantage? And if you just don't imagine yourself in that situation very often, then it's probably that your scouting is quite bad and your awareness is quite bad. Now, obviously, that's something you want to work on long term, but in the short term, you should pick a drop that probably doesn't have many near it. So I'd look at this. This gas station is quite simple. You get here, go here, get on the hill, and you just look around. And it's quite simple. However, a drop like this one, you have to be aware if this is keying you, if these guys are lurking on your loot over here, if these guys, they're probably still staying looting, but these guys can make plays, and you have to have more awareness. So immediately, based on your strengths and weaknesses there, you can eliminate about like half of the drops on the map. Now, the next point I want to go through is whether you're good at fighting 50-50s off spawn. So this is pretty much just clean, glide in for a marker. Can you win that chest? And can you pretty much just win the 50-50? So let's write it here, 50-50s. Now, obviously, there are lots of drops that might come into mind when you think of 50-50s. So you probably got, your Grim Gates, and there was that mountain, the tunnel next to Canyon in Chapter 6. That was like the absolute 50-50est you could get. Now, obviously, each drop, I think, is going to be on a scale of between 50-50 and like just a fighting, splitty kind of POI. So let's look at this map here. We can see that the 50-50 drops are probably going to be this gas station. So you pretty much land here, and you're just playing a zero build gun game. You've got maybe 2 guns, and you just have to play your angles. So the main things to think about for this, right, are you good with your guns? So let's just say zero build. Are you good with your drops? So obviously on a near bus, anyone can hit their marker. But on a far bus, do you know how to time your jump? Do you know where to look? Do you know like niche markers and little trees that you might hit? And I think people are actually really bad at self-assessing this, because they might think, oh yeah, I have the best drops, or I'm zero ping, or I have a macro. And I will get to how you can assess your how good you are at this. But first, I do want to talk about number 3, which is fighting off spawn split. So just pretty much fighting off spawn. And this is almost like a mid-game fight. So I'll take Inner Loop Labs. Let's say someone decided to con Peterbot for some reason. Let's hide that. One team might take this north side, and then the other team might take the south side. And it's really not like that gas station, because instead of having 2 guns, we've got probably a full load up, probably cap shield, solid amount of mats, maybe like 50-60 builds if you actually, spend your time correctly. And at that point, you're pretty much in a mid-game fight. Now, you still have to know whether you're good at these fights, and you have to play to your advantages, and the advantage here is that you're good at fighting. So I do think that the off-spawn fighting is pretty similar to mid-game fighting in this situation. And if that's a strength of yours, you just have to use it to your advantage. It's as simple as that. There's no point being literally peer bot and fighting and then landing a 50-50 gas station where some absolute drone with 100 PR has a very, like, maybe 70-30 chance to win against you. And there's no point in doing that. You might as well play to a drop that, you know, suits your strengths. And also, it's really important to say that in this kind of situation, you should consider the lobby of what you're dropping into. So if I open this up, we can say that in a Victory Cup lobby, so in Opens Game 1, so let's say you're a Division 1 player, you've maybe made 1 or 2 heats. This Victory Cup opens, that Game 1, Game 2, it's going to be easy, and you're going to be able to win your off spawns. And if that's the kind of lobbies you struggle in, I mean, I don't really know how, but if that's the kind of lobbies you struggle in, then you're probably not picking a drop that suits that lobby. Like, if you know you can win your straight 2v2s, then just play for a drop with the 2v2s. But then if you end up struggling in the higher elo, where the pros are going to outplay you at like that split kind of drop, then that's when you land 50-50 and you just take the better chances that you can get. Now, in terms of evaluating how good you are at each of these drops, I think there are mainly two ways to do it. And the first one is to just do off spawns. Try and play against people who are very much like at your skill level. Like, you might have friends who are like have like a third of your PR. They're probably not going to give you the best practice and actually test your skill. So try and get off spawns against maybe people you find in a Discord somewhere or like mutual friends and run off spawns with them. And number two is to use your history. So what I mean by that is to literally go through your Fortnite tracker and identify what were your best events, what were your worst events, and try and identify some kind of correlation. So here, I've got the boy Blue Plays FN. He is pretty good actually. He's like heats level, should be making grand soon. And I've edited the HTML so it has all of his drops in next to each of his like main tournaments. And I just want to try and identify some patterns with them. So this is pretty much the process you should go through when you're trying to evaluate yourself. So I'm going to start at August, which is like 3 months ago. I think that's a reasonable time frame. Supernova 153 is pretty much a dud. Resistance base, they qualled. Hashtag Frostbite was there. Resistance base 41st, resistance base 140th, resistance base 49th, resistance base 404th. More resistance base, and it's pretty solid placements. Like, it's not, you know, anything super special, but he is like 25 KPR, so it's not absolutely awful for his standard. And then the drop changes. Oh, that's meant to say below outpost at the crab, which is very much 50-50 on the edge of the map, very open, and it relies on drops because, you know, you pretty much always get far buses, and on those far buses he got 274th, so maybe his dropping is not as good as he thinks. Shiny Shafts 156th, and behind Shining Span, so there was like that dock area with the metal stuff and the tower, 605th, that's clearly not good. Bug Swatter Beach 700th, Dreamy Domain 106th. Okay, I know I'm just reading out a lot, but let's try and break this down. Bug Swatter Beach was that lake POI in the middle of the map, and that was quite 50-50 because it's really open. You can just run through maybe one corridor and that's it, your opponent's right there. Behind Shiny Span, that's obviously 50-50, they just use 50-50 a dock. But Shiny Shafts, you could pretty much take north and south. Resistance base, you can split it like 5 different ways, and you can see that he's clearly much better at fighting off spawn, trying to split it halfway. But when he goes for 50-50, that's when things don't work out. Now, this might not be just because he has bad drops. It might be that when he goes into a 50-50 drop, he always tries to win off spawn, and he's too greedy with what he can go for. But at the same time, that's a result of that's just your gameplay. You have to adapt to it, and you adapt to it by pick and drop. So Dreamy Domain, you can split it left to right and then fight in the middle. 86th, 106th, 130th. Donut District was that POI in Simpsons, 800th. Okay, pretty trash. And at this point I stopped because I could see the pattern. I can see that he's good at fighting these POIs, he's good at maneuvering in the tight little situations, but when it comes to straight 50-50s, I don't think he's able to handle it because, you know, sometimes you just want to be able to take like 10 chests and run. And obviously landing a 50-50 drop, there's not even 10 chests, so you have to really be aware of what you can go for. Now, I also want to consider how good you are at playing Storm. And I'll also add the 5th one, which is just rotating through zone. So this is pretty much combines into how do you play your mid game. So if you can imagine yourself rotating through center zone, you know the nice line of sight points, you know how to manage the hills, you can see the hills, you can scout them, you can find those people before they find you, then you probably want to play something where you can just rotate through center map. So let's look at an example on this map. We can see that a drop like this, it has a lot of space and you can just maneuver easily, and then you can pretty much get to here nice and for free just by running. But if you're not that type of guy to plan like that, then it might just be much easier just to land here, get what you can, and then scrap loot with campfires, whatever you can find around. And then just like that, you've eliminated all the center map or all the edge map. I mean, sometimes you can also have drops which can play both. So I know this drop has a nice mobility and just a lot of loot. So you can like switch it up if you need to, based on what you have. But in general, like, you just want to try and laser focus on what's perfect for you. So if you know you're always playing Storm every game, then just play for something that only plays Storm, because that's the drop for you. Like, there's no reason to leave it. It's your drop. And if you can't adapt to that drop, then you can't adapt to anything, because that's your strength at the end of the day. Okay, now I'm going to clear all of this. And I do just want to mention one more point before we switch over to the next tab. And that is, does it actually have what you need? So what do I mean by that? There's obviously loot, metal, positioning. There's obviously going to be the mobility for each season. I mean, this season it's really easy to get the jumpsuit thing. So I mean, that's not too much of a problem this season. But at the end of the day, there's no point playing if you have to get your loot here, you get your metal here, and then maybe you get your mobility here, and then there's going to be 3 teams just sitting outside waiting for you. Like, at that point, I don't really think there's a point landing it, because you're just playing to goof yourself. Because you're probably going to be conned anywhere, so you might as well just con something that's good. And let me explain that in a bit more detail. So here I've got a landing heat map from Assyrian because they're the goats. I've got the pro plan, which is what you need for the landing. Use code Frostbite at checkout. That is spelled like that. That's a Y. That gives you 12.5% off. But I love them, they're great. And the reason I mention this is because you might think, this drop has nothing. It has 5 chests. Oh, this would never be conned. Oh, that's 1 player per match. And in a Duo Victory Cup finals, which is what I've got open here, by the way, that means you're going to get conned 50% of games. And the reason I say that is because I want to shift your mentality to, you're going to fight off spawn. Can you win it off spawn? And is it worth it? And that's why I had my first 4 points were, my first 3 points were about fighting off spawn, and then my final 2 were about it being worth it to fight off spawn. So this has 1 person per match. I mean, I can just look through these. 2 people per match, which is literally on average conned every game, maybe conned by 2 teams some games. Obviously, this isn't going to be perfect when you land in, because some people might swerve, or some people might like have scout dropped or something. But on average, like, you do really want to think that you're going to get conned. You have to be ready for it. Now, I did mention scout dropping there. I wish I did have a clip, but I'll be honest, I wanted to get this video out, quite soon. And scout dropping essentially is when, let me open a new one. You have a bus path, and there are 2 main ways to scout drop. And King Cringe, if you know him, the Scottish guy that is the best on NA for some reason, he is pretty much the main guy when it comes to scout dropping. And the first strat, which has been actually known for ages, is to pretty much look out the back of the bus. So if your bus is coming along here, and you get to this point, and you haven't seen anyone drop here, that means that these drops are probably uncontested. So then you can land for it. But also what you can do is, if you know that there's a whole area of drops that you can pretty much see at one time. So I'd look at this point here. If you glide to here, have a really high glide, you can actually just look down and look around to see if this is conned, see if this is conned, see if someone's gliding in here, see if someone's here, and see if someone's here. And pretty much you get to choose out of 5 drops, and all you need is just one of them to be uncontested. And now in duos, it's easily stronger because you have more eyes, you can see more, now you're covering more area. In trios, this was really powerful, as Quinn showed. He had his own little split out the Rainbow Fields area at Outpost, and he pretty much could see a third of the map and see whether it was uncontested or not. However, that doesn't mean you need to learn a lot of the map. You need to really understand the rotates of a lot of the map, and you really just need to get used to it, because it's not something you can pick up on easily, because you have to understand how high you need to be and which places you need to be looking at, and also you need everyone on the team to commit to the idea and lock in, essentially. Now my final point, I'll be honest, it's going to be boring, but it's just stick with your drop. I'll stick with it. Why do I say this? You know why I want to say this. You learn your loot routes, you keep your off-spawn practice through, and you just pretty much become fixated on the rest of your game. Because if you know your off-spawn is good, then all that's left to tick off is mid-game and end-game. Which sounds really simple. And to be honest, that's because it is. Like, when I give people a guide to how to play their respective division, you just essentially check these boxes. Do you have a drop? Can you win it off spawn? Do you know your plans out of that spot? And can you play end games? Can you rotate early? Do you use your mats well? So if you just solve your off spawns, if you spend maybe 4 weeks at one drop just trying to solve the problems, understand where people disengage to, understand the different types of bus paths, that's 4 weeks where you're slowly making it better, and eventually you've solved it. If you just keep switching drops every week, then you're still on step 1, and you haven't actually made it to end games yet, and you're not going to get those big point games on average, because you're just still stuck dying off spawn at every drop on the map, because those guys have more practice than you. And now the final point is about that mid game. You need a game plan, and that will be covered in the next video. Oh, look at that beautiful chronology from Frostbite. Okay, I know this was a kind of different kind of video. I really had the epic pen out. Look, I don't even have Fortnite open. Maybe I'm not locked in, but I do think that this is going to help a lot of people. I've had a lot of requests on how to pick drops, so I just thought I'd make this, and hopefully it'll help you out. Like, sub, follow, and keep watching.